So we're going to do a few more things to the drums here, and I want to try something with Mixed In Key Studio Edition again to see if we can tune the drums with some kind of knowledge on what the root keys are. Okay, so what I want to do is import some of my own drum sounds. Now, I've got some great sounds here with Captain Beat, but this Music Theory Hacks course, I want to show you how you can kind of use some music theory tools that we have at our disposal to kind of dovetail with your own kind of creative vision and your own ideas. So drums is such a major part of electronic music and music in general, and also they're very important for defining what the kind of genre is you're working with. And I want this to be kind of a bit more disco-y, a bit more kind of old school sounding, and the drums at the moment are maybe a little bit too kind of big room, clubby kind of sounding for what I'm going for. So I'm going to change up some of the drum sounds. Now I'm going to do this by clicking in here in Logic to my browser, go to all files, and I have a bookmark here for some sounds that I collect and I create as I'm making tracks. So we've got some kick drums here, and here's some I've made recently that I want to try using. That's the kick I'm going to try. So I'm going to drop it onto here, and the kick drum, as you'll hear, will now be replaced.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low light.
I'm actually going to lose the fill just for the moment because I don't want to keep on losing the kick and the clap. So let's do the same for the clap. So we'll go back again. Drum hits, clap. We go. Drop it in there. And let's see how this sounds.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the...
Okay, cool. So I like the sound of that. Okay, now I can kind of hear the kick pattern changing slightly, especially with this new kick. So I just want to add in some hits here. So with the pencil tool, I can just draw an extra kick here.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the wall and feel alright. Why don't you get down, get real? Glad you found that.
Want to try one there as well.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights.
Okay, cool. Let's try it with the other drums.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the...
Okay, I want to tweak these toms as well. I find that they're a little bit too long in the tail.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe.
Okay, another tom here.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the wall and feel alright.
And let's just have a look at the attack. It's quite clicky because this tom here.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the wall and feel alright. Why don't you get down, get big? Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe.
Okay, so just slightly brought the attack down a little bit. You can see how short that attack is because that's 9 milliseconds. And you can hear that it's kind of really taking that attack down. Okay, now something I want to do quickly is just add in a little drum loop, kind of tambourine loop, again just to get these drums a little bit more dialed into how I want them to sound.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low light.
Okay, sounded good. So next thing I'm going to do is put Captain Beat into multi-channel mode. So there's documentation online about how to do this in different DAWs. This is how we do it in Logic. Click on the plus button and we're going to get the sounds coming out of individual channels. Okay, so now we've got this on separate tracks. What I want to try doing is using Mixed In Key Studio Edition to see if we can have a play with the key of the track. Now what I want to try is using an EQ. Any EQ will do. And I'm going to roll off the high frequencies and try and focus on the tonal part of the kick. It's just so low. See these big peak here, just kind of giving us the tail of the kick and the tone of the kick. So it's telling us that the note predominantly is, looks like, well, it was D. It's changing a little bit. So it's kind of looks like it's between C and D. So let's see if using Captain Beat we can tune this kick so that it hits around E a little bit more, because we're working in A minor and E is a fifth up from A. So we'll go to controls. Now this kick isn't necessarily going to be pitched exactly to the right note, so don't worry if you find yourself transposing not in kind of direct semitones or exact semitones, because it may not be pitched exactly. Anyway. So I'm just trying to experiment to see if I can get that E peak to be the biggest. Yeah, so it looks kind of good there. So what was that? Plus 1.8. So this is how it was. And this is the kick drum tuned. So this again falls under the kind of music theory hacks, tuning the drums, making sure that they sit well with the other elements. Let's see what it's like. First of all, let's take the EQ off. Let's see how it sits with the vocal. Okay, sounds good. Let's have a look at the toms. So it does have a tone to it, you can hear that. Let's actually try EQing again some of the higher frequencies out, which may confuse things. So it looks like it's predominantly kind of in that F kind of area. So let's try pitching this one down. Let's move mixing key so we can see what we're doing. So there's a bit of trial and error to try and get this spot on. Yeah, looks kind of good. So let's just open this back up. So we're going down 1.5. You're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the wall and feel alright. Why don't you get down, get busy on? Yeah, I think that feels a bit clearer. Still feels a little bit long on the tail. Glad you found that. You're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the wall and feel alright. Okay, so let's try that other tom, which is here. So that's quite clearly focusing on the note of D. So let's try this again, hitting E. It doesn't have to hit E, but that's kind of the closest, most harmonious note. So let's try that. Pretty good. Let's take the EQ off. I also feel like this is a little bit kind of long sounding. Okay, let's try that.
Glad you found that you're winning, getting down in the low lights. Yo, babe, hit the wall and feel alright. Why don't you get down, get busy on.
Okay, so that all feels quite nicely dialed in terms of the tuning of the drums feels quite coherent, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so just to recap in this video, what we did was import some custom drums. So we did that by accessing the drums from the Logic browser, but obviously you could do that in the Finder, and literally dragging them onto this little area here, and it will replace the drums. Then what we did was looking at tuning the drums. So we placed our drums on separate channels using the multi-output function in Logic and the little plus button to make the channels. And then what we did was actually tune the individual drums by EQing out the high frequencies to avoid confusion, focusing on those kind of tuned elements of the drum. And then we used Mixed Key Studio Edition just to tweak the pitch of each individual drum and kept in beat until we were looking like we were hitting the correct notes within the scale. And generally we were tuning it to E because that was the closest fit. And obviously E is the fifth of A minor. So that allowed us to create something which was more coherent and kind of more together sounding, I'd say. Okay, so now we've covered our drums. In the next video, we're going to have a look at adding some chords in using Captain Chords.